Hi, I'm Carl, and in this video we're going over Unit 13 and 14, or questions 39 to 41 of Section 3 of the Blue Booklet. So this first question is a question about electromagnetic waves traveling between two media, and I've drawn a little diagram that can explain that. So it says, if N1 is greater than N2, which are the refractive indices, then what does that mean for frequency and wavelength? So traveling from one medium into another would not affect the frequency, but it could affect the wavelength. And that's because of Snell's law. So you might already know about Snell's law, but you could say in this case that the refractive index N1 multiplied by the sine of the angle of refraction here is going to be sine theta 1 is going to have to be equal to N2 sine theta 2. So this is called Snell's law. What that tells us then, if we replace sine theta 1, for example, with the wavelength of the first one, and we say that's going to be equal to N2 multiplied by the wavelength of the second one, then we can get this ratio, which is going to be N1 over N2 is going to be equal to lambda 2 over lambda 1. And that says that if we have a value for this side that's going to be greater than 1, then this has to be greater than 1, meaning that this has to be greater than this. So lambda 2 has to be greater than lambda 1. And that gives us an answer then for 39 of C, because the frequencies have to remain the same. So if we move on to 40 now, this is talking about stereoisomers. If you have a chiral carbon and how to draw 3D molecular diagrams. Question 40 says the structure in figure 1 that cannot be superimposed onto any of the others is what? So I've drawn out the 4 different structures here, and for this sort of question it's worth thinking about, well, what does it mean that something couldn't be superimposed onto something else? And it's that you get a mirror image. So I've taken one of them and rotated it so that this W is going to be in the top position and everything sort of moves around clockwise, if that makes sense, like this. I've rotated it like that. And now we've got this molecule here. If we draw, imagine this is a mirror. Let's draw in what the mirror image of this might look like. So we end up with something that looks a little bit like this. And this is actually the same as structure 1, only it's been spun around. So we can see here that structure 3 cannot be superimposed onto structure 1. Now the question says onto any of the others, and the answer for this one is structure 3. And it's worth maybe practicing finding out why it couldn't be superimposed onto number 2 or to number 4. But I just thought I'd go over that one example to give you an idea of what the logic might be for that sort of question. It's worth drawing in a mirror and seeing whether or not they're mirror images of each other. If they're mirror images of each other, they cannot be superimposed onto each other. In my head, I think of this as my two hands are the same shape, but they're mirror images of each other, so I couldn't superimpose them onto each other. Okay, so then question 41 says, considering two compounds, how are stereoisomers possible? So again, stereoisomers are going to be possible only if there's a chiral carbon, and that's a carbon that has 4 different groups attached. So we're going to look here for a chiral carbon. You can see that on 2,2-dichlorobutane, that none of these carbons have any chirality. So this carbon has 3 hydrogens, so it's going to be this one. This is 2 chlorines, this is 2 hydrogens, and again, this is going to have 3 hydrogens. So it's not possible for 2,2-dichlorobutane. What about 2-butanol? This one has 3 hydrogens, so they're all the same. This has 1 carbon, 1 hydrogen, 1 CH2 group. So a CH3 group on one side, hydrogen, an OH, and a CH2 group. So this is actually chiral. And then this one isn't, and this one isn't. So this one is possible because it has that 1 chiral carbon. So it is possible for 2-butanol, but not for 2,2-dichlorobutane. For this sort of thing, I think it's best just to draw them out and have a look, go through it one by one. Yeah, so the answer for this one then is going to be B. So that was a couple of quick units, unit 13 and 14, or question 39 to 41. I hope that helped.